The Honorable Kujeto was asking if I could provide an indication for the closure of the process of consultation. Mr. Speaker, I believe that within a very short time, I don't want, certainly it will not go beyond 1 hour. It certainly will not go beyond 1 hour, and then we'll come to that determination. That is what I can say. It will not travel beyond 1 hour. Mr. Speaker, the message in the State of the Nation, I think the indication that we had was that it will be delivered on the 24th of February. But it's the reason why I said we needed some consultation is to be in tandem with the travel arrangements of the Speaker. You can't hear me. Okay. I'm saying that the date that has been agreed on is the 24th of February. I will need to be in consultation with the Speaker to know his own calendar, if it's going to be here. And if it's not going to be here, if in the event any of the Deputy Speakers could be in the chair. So that is the reason why we're not emphatic on the date, but tentatively, the 24th of February. Speaker, the Honorable Dafiamo posed question. I believe I responded to that before he came with the question. The Honorable Kofi Adams is bringing a question that does not find expression on the business statement. Speaker, I would request that the usual processes, if he wants the question to be answered, because, as I said, it's crossing over from one session to the other. The Deputy Minority Leader is insistent that we had closed the debate, the discussion, and that we had decided that we're not going to take the ELAB bill today. The Speaker, I'm really surprised because that was not the decision. We were conferring, and he said if we have some indications, we will do it. If we don't, we will not do it. What I've repeated here, that is what the decision that we took there. Speaker, thank you.
Very well. The business statement for the ensuing week is hereby adopted by the House. Item 6, questions. Yes.
Speaker, we had received correspondence from the scheduled minister, and we've communicated same to my colleagues in leadership on the other side. And so we have an agreement that we defer the questions to next week and take statement instead.
Very well. Honourable members, we're trying to sort out the statement which the Speaker admitted before we call on members to read their statements. Right? Yes,
Leader, sorry, Speaker, I recall there was a particular statement sponsored by the Honourable Ophelia, and the Speaker had admitted that one, and the Honourable Member is here. A copy was given to the Speaker. There were other copies, other statements on the other side. I cannot recollect members who sponsored these statements, but I can recollect that of Honourable Ophelia. So Speaker, if you may permit. Yes, and it's a commemorative statement.
Well, I'm trying to get guidance from the works of so that, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There were 3 statements Mr. Speaker said he was admitting. One of it was also commemorative. I mean, it was to eulogize Captain Chikata. And I was even pleading with the Speaker if we could do 2, if you remember. And said, oh, well, since the understanding is that we are not doing the other business, we should take the 3. So there are 3 that he said we're going to take.
Honourable members, Mr. Speaker mentioned the statement in honor of the memory of the late Captain Chikata. I think we can start with that one. May I call on the Honourable Member for Northern to read a statement in respect of Honourable Captain Kojo Chikata, the late.
Mr. Speaker, first I want to express my very deep appreciation for the opportunity to pay tribute to one of the most iconic internationalists and celebrated Pan-African soldier of our time, Captain Kata, retired, who transitioned with grace and full honors on the 20th of November 2021 at the age of 85. Mr. Speaker, Captain Kojo Chikata is to Africa what Che Guevara is to Latin America. Captain Kojo Chikata was born in the then Gold Coast in 1936 and attended Achimota School. He received his military training at the Military Academy and Training School, Teshi. He made it to the coveted shortlist for further military training at the prestigious Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst, where he excelled and was awarded the Best Overseas Cadet of his cohort. The distinguished military career of Captain Kojo Chikata began with a decision by Osajifo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, founder and first president of the Republic of Ghana, to build an indigenous armed forces. Hitherto, the Ghana Armed Forces had been an appendage of the British colonial regime, and the decision of the immediate post-independence government to transform it led to the recruitment and training of a new crop of officers, including Captain Kojo Chikata. He was at the very heart of the Africanization project of the Osajifo's Convention People's Party. As a young officer, bubbling with a determination to contribute to ending the colonial project in Africa, Captain Chikata, along with others, was deployed to Congo in 1960 as Ghana's first peace operation mission to protect the democratically elected Prime Minister, Patrice Lumumba, and his Pan-African project. This had become necessary because of the now confirmed Western intelligence plot led by the security services of Belgium, the United States of America, and others to replace the Lumumba government with a friendlier neo-colonial regime. Progressive Congolese continue to praise the distinguished role played by Captain Kojo Chikata in the audacious effort by the government of Ghana to halt the neo-colonial and anti-democratic onslaught of the forces of reaction and counter-revolution in the Congo. In a tribute after his death, the Congolese Pan-African activist Kambale Musavuli wrote, "Captain Kojo Chikata was one of Africa's great sons. His contribution will never be forgotten," unquote. Captain Chikata also spent considerable time in Angola, where he was known as Carlos Silva and an advisor to the National Liberation Movement, the MPLA. He trained their combatants and fought alongside them on the battlefields. Mr. Speaker, Captain was part of the Cuban-led internationalist forces which defeated the apartheid armed forces in the Battle of Pito Canaveral from 14 August 1987 to 23 March 1988. The internationalist forces completely surrounded the apartheid army, forcing South Africa to the negotiation table. This great victory led to the consolidation of the independence of Angola, the independence of Namibia, and the collapse of apartheid. Mr. Speaker, Captain Chikata was appointed head of national by President Jerry John Rawlings, God bless his soul, spanning the Provisional National Defense Council regime and during the democratic first term of President Rawlings. That's from 1982 to 1995. From July 1985, he held two portfolios as PNDC member in charge of national security and foreign affairs. Captain Chikata is largely credited to have played a cardinal role in the negotiation team that spearheaded successful peace talks in Liberia, which ended that country's devastating war. He was later appointed advisor to President Muammar Gaddafi of Libya. As a speaker, Captain Chikata stayed the course despite a vicious campaign to sully his hard-earned image with allegations that have never been proven. He consistently provided concrete solidarity to the government and peoples of Cuba, Nicaragua, Western Sahara, Libya, and many others engaged in the anti-imperialist struggle for national independence and international cooperation in the fight against poverty, ignorance, and the social ills of our time. Mr. Speaker, in the 1980s, Captain Chikata was at the center of what became known as the Scranage and Nobisto affairs, in which he is credited by many analysts, including the Western press, for outwitting foreign intelligence agencies. Mr. Speaker, despite his legendary stature, he was such a modest man of very few words, who loved his country deeply. He served Ghana with distinction and integrity, earning him enormous respect across the political divide. It was not surprising, Mr. Speaker, that President Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo had very kind words of gratitude for Captain Chikata when he first won the presidential election of 2016. Former President Mahama described Captain Chikata on his demise as, quote, a critical thinker, a master strategist, and a stabilizing presence who helped him resolve critical issues, unquote. Mr. Speaker, the records will reflect that Captain Chikata refused to accept the highest Ghanaian national award offered by President John Agyekum Kufuor in recognition of his selfless service to Ghana, Africa, and the world in 2008. He was, however, the recipient of high national awards in Angola, Algeria, South Africa, Libya, and the Solidarity Award, and of the Order of Carlos Manuel de Cespedes, conferred by the Council of State of the Republic of Cuba. He was also one of the first recipients of the Osagyefo Excellence Awards instituted by the socialist movement of Ghana. Mr. Speaker, we owe the progress of the African continent and the stability of our nation to the unblemished sacrifices of heroes such as Captain Kojo Chikata. Mr. Speaker, very few have defended the dignity and nobility of the African people better than the mythical Bagbaja. We thank the Almighty for blessing our continent with Captain Kojo Chikata. Mr. Speaker, we believe that old soldiers never die. May the soul of this towering, selfless, brave African freedom fighter rest in eternal glory. I am enormously grateful for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
Yes. Who West?
Thank you, Howes. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to add my voice to statement made by my colleague, Honorable Samuel Okujetua Blacklock, to eulogize and also pay tribute.
Honorable Member, kindly hold on. Yes, leader.
Sorry, Mr. Speaker, my view is that looking at the time, if we could take all the three statements so that the contributions could come, so that we could see if we could be so on the time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Chief.
Speaker, I'm in support of the suggestion from my colleague.
Very well. I've already granted him permission to contribute. So you conclude your contribution. Yes, leader.
Speaker, we probably can just allow one or two comments to the eulogy of Captain Chikata by the Honorable Blacklock. So after the Honorable Petra, if you permit me, I'll conclude. Then we can take the other statements. So that we separate just this one from the others, unless they are also of the same tribute. Thank you.
Yes, Honorable Member for Howes, kindly continue.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, the Captain retired Kojo Chikata. In conclusion, say the same time. Mr. Speaker, just as my colleague, Honorable Samuel Okujetua, has eulogized our late Captain Kojo Chikata, an illustrious son of Ghana and from the Volta region, Mr. Speaker, this is a man who we all know to be humble to the core. Even his dressing, he depicts humility in all forms and shapes. Mr. Speaker, from what we read and what we have seen from retired Captain Kojo Chikata and late, he's a good listener. Mr. Speaker, you can stay with Captain Chikata discussing the issue, and all he does is to listen to you. Whilst listening to you, he's intelligently preparing his answers, and he might not even say anything. That is lacking in our lives, these days, Mr. Speaker. We are quick to speak, we are quick, to give answers to people instead of listening to what our colleagues are saying. Mr. Speaker, one of the cardinal lifestyle that we can all learn from Captain Kojo Chikata is to be a good listener. Mr. Speaker, he's a nationalist. Captain Kojo Chikata, even though he hails from the Volta region, is a nationalist. He believes in the development of this nation. He believes that Ghana first than your region. And if all of us here as members of parliament can look at our nation, Ghana, than our various regions and constituencies, I believe this nation will move forward. In a sense that when issues of national development comes to us, we must first of all look at it as a nationalist, look at it as a Ghanaian first, before even thinking about political parties and all have you. Mr. Speaker, Captain Kojo Chikata retired was not only a nationalist, he's also a Pan-Africanist. Mr. Speaker, just as our brother Samuel Okujetua has mentioned, he has received so many awards from all kinds of people and all nations around Africa and outside Africa. Pan-Africanist because he believes in one thing, that Africa one day will be united. Africa one day will become a united Africa, where all of us can work together as an African, than this our having these small countries called Ghana, Togo, and the rest, and we are not able to move this continent forward. I believe that with this of our dear brother who has gone to be with the Lord, Captain Kojo Chikata, many of us will learn from him, will learn from his footsteps, and begin to be humble in our strides, nationalists, and also Pan-Africanists. Mr. Speaker, with these short words, I thank you.
I'll take the leader and then. Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to comment on the statement made by Honorable Tujeto Ablakwa in honor of.
Odo, I didn't even recognize that you're on your feet. I gave the floor to the member for Tamale.
You didn't call me.
No, I called the member for Tamale.
Oh, okay.
Sorry. Are you?
Thank you very much, Right Honorable Speaker. Even though I knew that, and I'm grateful that you gave me the opportunity to contribute, I thought it was appropriate for me to defer to my senior colleague who was already on his feet. Mr. Speaker, so on that note, I am going to make my submission short and hope that it will touch your heart to still give Honorable Kodo the opportunity to contribute to this matter, this very important, eulogy of a great man. Mr. Speaker, indeed, Captain Kojo Chikata, for me, reminds me of the great Che Guevara. As Cuba had Che Guevara, I would say ours was Captain Kojo Chikata. And Mr. Speaker, it breaks my heart that when you look at the sacrifices that he made, not just for the stability of this country, but for the stability of the continent, we fail to celebrate him in his lifetime, at least to appreciate the contributions that he has made to the stability of not only Ghana but the continent. The Speaker, the statement rightly captures his rejection of the highest Ghanaian National Award offered by President John Ajekun Kufuor in recognition of his selfless service to Ghana in 2008. The Speaker, I do not think that it was just done out of the goodness of his heart, but it may have also been as a result of deliberate attempts by sections of the media and the political divide to tarnish his image, especially in relation to the murder of the judges, which, Mr. Speaker, countless, commissions of inquiry exonerated him despite attempts to, tarnish his image as far as the murder of those judges were concerned. The Speaker, I am sure he went to his grave with that, a heavy feeling in his heart that the country went to greater length to tarnish his image with those murders. And that is what breaks my heart, Mr. Speaker, that such a great man with such great contributions, not only to the stability of Ghana, but to the stability of the continent, could not be celebrated unanimously by Ghanaians, especially given the democracy that we enjoy today and the hard work that they put in to make sure that we have it today. Mr. Speaker, wherever he is, I pray that his soul will rest in perfect peace, and perhaps his example will guide us to recognize national heroes and celebrate them in their lifetime in the manner to be celebrated. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity to contribute to this very beautiful statement in celebration of a great statesman. Thank you.
Yes, leader.
Speaker, let me thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the tribute and eulogy in honor of the soldier, politician, nationalist politician, Captain retired Kojo Chikata, who died on 20th November and was buried privately at the Lashibi Funeral Home. Mr. Speaker, first, our profound sympathies and condolences to the family, He was a stalwart founding member of the National Democratic Congress as a party, having been a foundation key ally of the Nkrumah's tradition of CPP. Mr. Speaker, at his burial was President John Dramani Mahama, as he then was, President Laurent Gbagbo of Ivory Coast, and President Nana Akufo-Addo to bid him farewell. It was his personal wish that he is not given any state burial and that he wanted to be given a private family burial. Mr. Speaker, within the NDC, there are various shades of interest and others, and Captain Retired Chikata paid his dues to the party. I am told by senior members of the NDC that it took Captain Chikata, but more particularly the late Justice D.F. Annan, to work with President Wallace to transition Ghana from the military rule to democratic rule. Today, we have over 25 years stable democracy, thanks to their tenacity, thanks to their sacrifices, that at least today we have a democratic Ghana under the Fourth Republic. Mr. Speaker, going forward, one of the lessons I learned from the late Captain Chikata was learn to be silent. For him, silence was golden. He spoke very less. He was a man of few words, but with wit and will, whatever he wanted to do. Mr. Speaker, he contributed immensely in building our national security landscape, which itself have contributed today in protecting our new democratic culture, given his experiences of what happened in 1966 and many other periods under the Nkrumah regime. He therefore played a significant role in the transition of our country to democratic rule in 1992, as I observed. Mr. Speaker, as observed by the Honorable Okujeto Ablakwa, he was not one of those who was interested in honor or titles. National honor, meaningless to him. For him, it was service to his country and service to his country. May his soul rest in perfect peace, and I trust that, Mr. Speaker, as we are told, shortlisted for military training, and Sandhurst, he won the best overseas cadet of his cohort in that particular area, and his expertise and guidance was sought in many other parts of the world. Mr. Speaker, what is also important is that he was a true Pan-Africanist. He was a true Pan-Africanist who believed in the strength of the Pan-African, and particularly the black person. May his soul rest in perfect peace. It's a major loss to the state of Ghana and to us as a family. Once again, I thank the maker of the statement and our sympathies to the family. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Very well. The next statement is in the name of the Honorable Member for Mfantsiman. Honorable Hayford, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to pay tribute to the late Brigadier General Constance Amma Emefa Ijani Afenu, Ghana's first female general, who passed away on Monday, January 24, 2022. The late Brigadier General was born on March 5, 1960 in Vani Avetime in the Volta region. She was raised up in Tamale and attended the Kamina Barracks Primary and Armed Forces Experimental School in Kumasi before attending Wesley Girls Senior High School in Cape Coast to study for her O-level and A-levels. She enlisted into the Ghana Armed Forces as one of two females in 1978 when she was only 18 years old. After 18 months of training at the Ghana Military Academy, she was commissioned as a second lieutenant on April 25, 1980. As the only female in her batch to successfully complete her training, she was consequently awarded the Most Resilient Officer Award in her graduating class. Mr. Speaker, her father as well as two of her brothers also served in the military, and this imbibed in her a strong sense of civic responsibility. This was demonstrated by her great career in the Ghana Armed Forces, where she progressed through the ranks to become the country's first female Brigadier General. She became a role model for women in the Ghana Armed Forces and the country at large. Mr. Speaker, the late Brigadier General later graduated from the Ghana Institute of Management and Public Administration with a diploma in Public Administration, GIMPA. Additionally, she had her postgraduate diploma management practices from École Supérieure de Gestion in Paris, France. Subsequently, she obtained a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting from GIMPA. Mr. Speaker, the Brigadier General Ijani Afenu also participated in various UN peacekeeping operations. She served as part of the United Nations Interim Forces in Lebanon, UNFIL, in 1994 and 1998. The UN Stabilization Mission in the Democratic Republic of Congo, MONUSCO, in 2007, and the United Nations Mission in Liberia, UNMIL, in 2009. Mr. Speaker, the late Brigadier General later became the first woman to be appointed as Deputy Military Advisor to the Permanent Mission in New York from 2013 to 2016. Her appointment in 1999 as the Commanding Officer of the Forces Pay Regiment made her the first female commanding officer in the history of the Ghana Armed Forces. History when she progressed through the ranks to become the first female Brigadier General of the Ghana Armed Forces on March 1st, 2016. Her appointment was confirmed in March 2017 when the Chief of Defense Staff, Major General Obed Boama Akwa, conferred the rank on her. The CDS, whilst congratulating her, labeled her exploits as a beacon for females in the Ghana Armed Forces. Mr. Speaker, in 2019, the UN appointed her as the Deputy Force Commander in the UN mission for the referendum in Western Sahara, MONUSCO, where she served with distinction. Mr. Speaker, it is evident that the nation has lost a great servant in the late Brigadier General. She was a trailblazer who served her country with distinction and left an indelible mark which shall never be erased. I wish to use this opportunity as the Vice Chair of the Defense and Interior Committee to commiserate with her family and express my deepest condolence. Mr. Speaker, with these few words, I say may her soul rest in perfect peace, and may we benefit from the memories of her. Thank you once again for the opportunity, Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Honorable Zanito.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the commemorative statement made by the Vice Chair of the Defense and Interior Committee in honor of the first female Brigadier General, Constance Emefa Ejani Afenu, who passed on at the 37 Military Hospital a few days ago. Mr. Speaker, we must have the full details of her bio so that it is not lost on people the fact that she actually earned her stripes. The Brigadier General did all the relevant courses which empowered her to take part in what the United Nations calls the gender-responsive peacekeeping operations. I was actually in a course with her on women, peace and security, and she was a woman who was confident and calm, but very strong about her positions and principled as well. Mr. Speaker, to add to what my Vice Chair said, is to add the fact that she served as a platoon commander for the 2nd Infantry Battalion in 1980 after her training. She was also the adjutant to the 3rd Border Guards Battalion from 1981 to 82, and she subsequently was appointed the General Staff Officer Grade 3, Training and Personnel Officer at the Border Guards Headquarters from 1983 to 1984, and then as adjutant to the Border Guards Training School in Petue in 1984. Mr. Speaker, in 1995, she was appointed the 2nd in command of the Ghana Armed Forces Pay Regiment, and in 1999, the commanding officer, all of which she became the first female officer to occupy in that position. Mr. Speaker, she was an old girl and certainly lived by the motto of Wesley Girls High School, which is to live pure, speak true, right wrong, and follow the king. Mr. Speaker, the Brigadier General indeed is a beacon of hope and a good example, not just to the young women within the security services, but also those who are living within the civilian space to aspire to greatness. She truly was an example of someone who didn't just fill the quota of being female. She truly earned her stripes and climbed up the ladder in the armed forces. Mr. Speaker, her role as Deputy Commander in MINUSO was also a way to prove that Ghana was indeed fulfilling her role to ensure that we were playing the role of a gender-responsive United Nations peacekeeping operation, which fed from the original UN Security Council Resolution 1325, which acknowledged the disproportionate impact of conflict on women in this world. Mr. Speaker, she played her role, and she should not be seen as the only female to have ascended to this position. She broke the glass ceiling, and it's time for other women to occupy such positions so that she's no longer the exception, but the rule. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity, and may she rest in peace.
Yes, Honorable Battles.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute. Mr. Speaker, today we are speaking about a woman who found herself in a man's world, because in her time in the military, being a woman who was one of two to be admitted into the training institute, but then she was the only one who graduated in her class. Mr. Speaker, as I read about her, I don't know her personally, but I can only imagine the determination with which she entered the military. And I can only imagine how much hard work and perseverance she had to put in just to get to that position that we are celebrating today. Mr. Speaker, this is a woman who became the first commander in the armed forces, the first woman commander in the armed forces. This is no small feat. So today, if you see women standing to eulogize her, I believe she did a lot to show other girls and other women that we can actually climb all the way to the top, and we can be the best that we can be if only we work hard, if only we do what we are supposed to do, and if only we don't let the men intimidate us. Mr. Speaker, she did her best in ensuring that she got a good education. She didn't end where she started in the military, but she added to her knowledge and she added to her skill. So, as my colleague said, my colleague, Honorable Zenato said, she earned her stripes. It wasn't handed to her on a silver platter. You can see from her background that she had to work really hard, both in educating herself and also on the field. She was able to achieve a lot of goals, and she ended up also working with the United Nations. Mr. Speaker, to end my submission, I would like to say that I hope the military is honoring her as much as we are, because we believe that any woman who is able to achieve so much is doing it for all women across the world. She's not only doing it for women in the military, she's also doing it for women all across Ghana. And indeed, I'm speaking on behalf of all women today. Just as my colleagues have done, we are indeed proud of Brigadier General Constance Ama Emefa Ajani Afedu. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Yesterday, I was led by the chairman of the Volta Caucus and our colleagues who commiserate with the family, and we were preparing to do the same. And so now that my colleague has set the ball rolling, it is my pleasure to also contribute to this statement that has been made on behalf of Brigadier General Constance Ejiani Apenu. Mr. Speaker, the family of the Janis is similar to mine. We were all barracks girls. We were born in Burma camp together. And that family has given us 2 soldiers. Unfortunately, both women have left us now. Brigadier General had a younger sister called Peggy, who was also a military officer. She left us 6 years ago. And now we are here eulogizing and celebrating the life of Sister Constance, as we called her. Sister Ama was not just a trailblazer in the Ghana Armed Forces, but also amongst the children of soldiers. For her to have gone through the training where she did and to have earned all the laurels that we have heard this evening is worthy of emulation. Their mother is alive, and I cannot imagine what she is going through. If it's any comfort to any woman who is listening to us and watching, then let us know that our children live our stories for us, and may we all be inspired to raise positive children for our country. Both men and women contribute to the development of this country, and these 2 women have set the example. Mr. Speaker, the youngest of that family is Akofa Ejani Esiedu, a very popular actress in our country. I can only imagine what she's going through right now. For one family to give us soldiers, performing artists, lecturers, and teachers is remarkable. It is worthy to celebrate those who deserve it, so the living may learn from it. I want to use this opportunity to thank the maker of the statement and all contributors to the celebration of the life of Sister Ama, who by far has been celebrated more than any other woman in Ghana and around the world, and of course, among the United Nations as well. This example should inspire us all in every field of endeavor for ourselves to continue to make the black star, the red, gold, green with a black star, shine brighter and fly higher. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
I'm sorry, I want to come to leadership. I have one more statement, so yes, leader. Very well.
Thank you very much, Right Honourable Speaker.
Right Honorable Speaker, I met the late Brigadier General Constance Amma MFA Ejiani Afeno 15 years ago when I joined the Perez Chapel International. She was a woman who loved God first and foremost, even before loving her nation. She was a member of the Perez Chapel Church Board and an elder of the church. And she was a mother to everybody in that auditorium in Jowlu. Her life is testament of the tenacity of purpose that she has as a woman. Mr. Speaker, in 2018, when I decided to enroll at the Kofi Annan International Peacekeeping Training Center to undertake a master's degree program in conflict, peace, and security, little did I know that she was going to be there. Not only did I meet her there, she was class president and I was her deputy. And Mr. Speaker, our second deputy speaker was a member of that class. And today we shared fond memories of Mama Constance, as we called her in class. Honorable John Binam was also a member of that class, and Honorable Gabi Osei, former MP for Time, was a member of that class. Mr. Speaker, on the 15th of January this year, a welcome party was held to celebrate her on her return from her mission. She was hale, hearty, and sound, had absolutely no sign that 10 days later she will no longer be with us. She was a healthy woman who celebrated and danced her joy at coming back home from serving the mission on the 15th of January. And so it is evidence of how transient life can be, how 10 days later we hear that we are celebrating her. Mr. Speaker, I want to use this opportunity to call on the Military High Command. I'm aware she had completed all the processes for earning her second star as a Major General, and that we must reward her and celebrate her posthumously with the award of a Major General rank that she had gone through all the interviews to complete. This is a woman who had been a trailblazer. President Mahama appointed her to the UN as our permanent rep to the UN permanent mission. He appointed her as a Brigadier General because of the tenacity of her purpose. And I hope and pray that before she's laid to rest, the military will posthumously award her the rank of Major General, which she rightfully deserves. May God grant her soul the repose that she deserves. Amen.
Yes, Majority.
Speaker, Honorable Amakwame.
Yes, Honorable Deputy Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I rise to add my voice to the tribute, and of course a befitting one, read on behalf of the late Brigadier General by the Honorable Infantiman MP. The late Brigadier General Constance MFA Ejiani Afeno indeed was enlisted into the Ghana Armed Forces not only to be trained as a soldier, but of course to be trained as a soldier. For a woman to have ventured into an arena which was either to a female, known female arena, was a feather in her cap. She rose through the rank from a second lieutenant to a brigadier general. The late Brigadier General was not only a role model, but she was, in fact, she gave hope and courage to the many young women whose dream it has been to join the Ghana Armed Forces. As the first female Brigadier General of the Armed Forces, the late Constance, in fact, must be celebrated. And indeed, I can assure all and sundry in this house that the Ghana Armed Forces and the Ministry of Defense will give her indeed a befitting burial because she deserves it. As the first military advisor to the permanent mission in the UN and all her services in the UN, it was obvious that the services was not only enjoyed in Ghana, but rather in the entire world through her services in the UN. Mr. Speaker, the late Brigadier General also worked with the Ministry of Defense, and she was in fact the link between the ministry and the Comptroller's Office.
She made sure that our men and women in uniform, salary and payment were done on time. This was a morale booster for our men and women in uniform, and then she deserves an applause for that. Right Honorable Speaker, as the first female commanding officer of the Forces Pay Regiment, it is obvious that if one listens to all that she did, she became almost the first female in everything she did. And I believe that indeed she was not only a trailblazer, but rather a pace setter. She set the pace for other women to emulate. And she also gave a true meaning to the saying that what the man can do, the woman can do better. In fact, she has done it better, and she deserves every applause and every commendation. Right Honorable Speaker, with these few words, I can only commensurate with the family, and I wish that God will grant them the strength in this trying moment. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
There's a third statement by the Honorable Member for Gomwa East, Honorable Desmond de Graft Patu. Yes, Honorable, you may read the statement.
So we are postponing to another date. Oh my goodness.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to make this statement before the floor. Mr. Speaker, I would like to make this important statement on the tragic fire outbreak incident that perished a family of 7 at Budumbram in the Gomwa East constituency. Mr. Speaker, on Saturday, 15 January 2022, a tragic event befell on the good people of Budumbram. A basic school headmaster, Mr. Robert Asan Donko, his wife and their 5 children, including a 4-month-old baby, were burned to death after fire swept through their apartments in a block of a flat for teachers and doctors constructed by the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, UNHCR, at Big Apple, a suburb of Gomwa, Budumbram. Mr. Speaker, items such as personal belongings of the late family were not spared as the fire burned beyond recognition. Accounts from residents who were at the scene indicated that the fire began at the early hour of 5 a.m. in the morning after the family had returned from an all-night church service. Yet people couldn't determine what precisely might have caused the fire which burnt the family to death. Mr. Speaker, eyewitnesses have it the victims screamed for help from their apartments. Residents who rushed to the scene attempted to break into their living room to rescue them. However, they were not successful due to the nature of the fire coming from the building. Mr. Speaker, the family lived on a second floor of a 2-story building fully protected with burglar proof, which has no emergency exit. It added that when the fire personnel and some residents entered into the apartment after the fire has been controlled, the lifeless bodies of the family were found in the bedroom and bathroom separately. Mr. Speaker, the officer responsible for operation at the Gomwa Budumbram station of Ghana National Fire Service, ADO2 Mr. Patrick Bauer, stated that initial investigation uncovered that fire began from the living room before spreading to the other rooms in the apartment. He noticed that the family had locked the entrance to the living room at the early hour of the tragedy, which made it difficult for good Samaritans who rushed to the scene to save them. He further mentioned that the family after seeing the fire try to come out, but the thick smoke made it difficult for them. Mr. Speaker, it is extremely devastating to report that the lifeless bodies of the 7 deceased have since been deposited at the Winneba Trauma and Special Hospital mortuary. Mr. Speaker, the past days have been quite tough for me, the management and the staff of Budumbram DA Basics B School, where Mr. Robert Asandonko late was the head teacher, the People's and my constituency. The Ghana National Service and the Ghana Police Service have so far launched investigation into the fire outbreak, whereas the fire service is investigating the cause of the fire. The police are looking into a possible criminal element of the incident. Mr. Speaker, it is constructive to inform the House that I have visited the location and offered some assistance to the bereaved families. Mr. Speaker, this sad incident brings to the fore a canker that must be checked immediately. The incident was third in a row, and I call on government to continuously resource the fire stations so as to effectively fight fire outbreak. In addition, I encourage Ghanaians to install smoke alarms or detector in their homes so that in circumstances like fire outbreaks, the alarm would raise and serene for inhabitants to realize the occurrence of same. Mr. Speaker, at this juncture, I would like to call on the attention of Ghana Education Service and Ministry of Education, as well as all well-meaning Ghanaians, to support the deceased family as preparations are underway towards the funeral rites. Mr. Speaker, it is important to mention and acknowledge the kind support of Mrs. Francisca de Graft Johnson, the Gomoa East District Director of Education, who brought a team of psychologists to the Budumbram DA Basic B School premises to support the management and staff with counseling during the difficult time. On behalf of my constituents and the good people of the Gomoa East District, we say thank you. Mr. Speaker, once again, I want to use this medium to express my heartfelt condolences to the bereaved family, management and staff of the basic school, as well as the peoples, as today marks the 1-week celebration of the departed souls. I continue to pray that the good Lord himself will strengthen and counsel them and console them as we pull together available resources to continuously provide the needed support in such a difficult time. Mr. Speaker, to end with, let me register my utmost gratitude and appreciation to the good people of Gomoa East constituency who rose up in their number to call when it mattered most. To the residents of Budumbram Fire Station, the District Police Command, management and staff of Budumbram DA Basics B School, we remain eternally grateful. May God be our strength. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for opportunity to read this statement. Thank you.
You wish to contribute? You wish to contribute?
That is so.
Very well.
Speaker. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to contribute to the statement ably made by my colleague, Honorable Desmond Petu of Gomoa East, on the disaster that really befell a whole family of 7 at Budumbram in the central region. Mr. Speaker, I particularly decided to contribute because of the effect this has had on me for the last 3 days when he narrated the events leading to this disaster to me. Mr. Speaker, I in particular do not actually look at such things as dead bodies and all those matters. But on this occasion, he called me and said, Honorable, have you heard what has actually happened to my constituency? And I said to him, no. Has it been reported in the media? And he said, no, it has. But I said to him, I haven't seen it. Then he said, a whole family of 7 have been perished through fire disaster. So, Mr. Speaker, he told me whether I wanted to see the photos, and I said no. I normally don't see such photos. So I was a bit hesitant. Mr. Speaker, he persisted, and I said, okay, let me have a look at them. Mr. Speaker, he sent the photos to me. And I can tell you, for the last 3 days, it hasn't been easy for me. The worst part of it is when I went home, I just went to my living room and started looking at the various exit points, saying to myself, if this thing had happened to me, how will I escape? I went to the 2 doors, went to the kitchen trying to look at exit points. I started talking to myself. I went upstairs to look at all my other doors, then went to the balcony. I said, in case I'm confronted with this, how am I going to escape? Yeah. In the narration, it indicated that in an attempt to run away from the fire, the man and one of the children got stuck in one of the washrooms, and the son was it the child, was shouting, Daddy, can't we break to get out? And people were outside listening to the cries of the child. All these things were echoing in my mind. Mr. Speaker, I even went as far as to my washroom and started looking that if this incident should happen, how am I going to escape? For the last 3 days, Mr. Speaker, it hasn't been easy at all for me. But what do we see? We live in a country where after spending so much to build your house, you have to look for money to fortify yourself, build all manner of burglar proof just to protect yourself. We live in a country where when there is an incident of fire, you find it difficult to get the fire tenders attending to you at the right time. Mr. Speaker, I see this as I see it as a disaster. Not be left to the family alone. Mr. Speaker, I believe that the district assembly, especially with the caucus from the central region, must come together at least to help the family to put their beloved to rest. Mr. Speaker, I consider it a disaster that must attract the attention of the government. At least something must be done for the family. Mr. Speaker, I'm sure that my colleagues from the central region will do the needful by contributing to at least keep the family going. Again, let me conclude by saying I express my deepest condolence to the people of Bujumbura, the bereaved family, and my honorable MP. Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah. After that, I'll come to you. Sorry, let me see.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity to contribute to the statement ably made by my honorable colleague. Indeed, it's so sad to find fellow Ghanaians dying from a preventable incident. I think that we have not done well as a country when it comes to handling of fire issues. It is important that the Ghana Fire Service
stepped up the education wing, because if you follow media space, you don't really see much of sensitization on fire issues. And I think that is one very important thing we have to tackle as a country. We have to make sure that the local media, especially the local radio stations, their attention has to be drawn so that they can include more of this fire education. I think when that is done, it can help to reduce the situation. The other thing that I think we have to look at as a country is that the Ghana Standard Authority will probably have to step up and look at the nature of houses that we have as a country. Because you enter in some houses and you will just find that if something indeed happens, then the household are in trouble. They cannot find any space to exit. We need to step up the standards check of the type of houses that we build. We also have to ensure and look at the types of roofs, because day in, day out, we find fire service being caught in a very serious situation where they are not able to access where the fire is actually taking place. This is not too good, and I think that the Ghana Standard Authority will have to step up and look more into that. The other thing is that the maker of the statement mentioned that we have to install fire alarms in the houses. Aside the fire alarms, we also have to look at the issue of extinguishers. As many that can afford, we have to encourage houses to own fire extinguishers. I'm sure when we are able to do that, it can help us to handle minor situations. Some of these incidents that happen can be managed if we have fire extinguishers. If you compare it to other situations, you realize that they take fire issues so seriously. For example, as a student in University of Reading, immediately we arrived as students, we had to take fire exams. And the first round we took it, some of us, we failed. And they gave us that deadlines. And you had to go through some literature to read through to understand how to handle fire situations before they allow you to stay as a student. And I think that wouldn't be a bad idea if we can introduce it in our tertiary institutions, so that we can let people who come into the buildings take some basic exams for us to be sure that they are well equipped in terms of knowledge of handling fire issues. That can also be linked to the issues of armed robbery, because the way people try to fortify their houses is also influenced by the insecurity situation that we face. And I think our honorable colleague of blessed memory, we all remember how he was killed. So people have to fortify their houses just to stay safe. And in doing that, you are also opening yourself to other very difficult situations. So I think that the security situation, if we take steps to improve the security situation, that will also make more people to feel comfortable to handle their houses in such a way that they can easily escape when there are crises. I think a few words, I must be grateful to the Speaker for the opportunity. Thank you very much.
Yes, Honorable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank the honorable member who made the statement, and I want to start by expressing our condolences to the families who've lost these very valuable people
in this fire incident. I have listened to the inputs, and I can assure honorable members that there is a lot I can take from it to improve our fire system. But it's important to note that the fire officers went to the scene, but the fortifications that were put in the house, the fire service officers spent a lot of time, had to break in, but unfortunately, when they got in, although they put up the fire, regrettably, no lives could be saved in these circumstances. The Central Regional Fire Service is working on it and in touch with the acting chief fire officer. And I can assure all of us here that we do all that we can to make sure that this situation does not occur. But it involves all of us. When we come to building of houses, when we are issuing building permits, the role of fire service is not emphasized. And sometimes fire service officers go around to visit houses to try to make sure that they improve the security situation as far as fire is concerned, and it doesn't match. That notwithstanding, I want to assure the House that a lot has happened to improve the fire service, but we can do a lot more. What I can assure you is that I appreciate what the maker of the statement acknowledged, the response of the fire service and the response of the police and other security agencies. We think that we need to do more, and we have passed legislative and LI about fire extinguishers. But these are things we need to engage stakeholders as to cost and what it means. But certainly, Mr. Speaker, I want to say that there was a regrettable incident, and we would work, and I would like the Honourable Member of Parliament, if he has further information to give to me, that will enable me understand better the report that's finally going to come to my desk and see how we can work. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
I promise, Honorable Tete, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for the opportunity, and my condolences to my colleague from Goma East, where I share a border, a boundary with, whom I share a boundary with, sorry. This is a very tragic situation. I remember seeing a flyer which said celebration of life, and I said, who said this is a celebration? It is a tragedy. When a mother and a father and their 5 children lose their lives in the fire, it's not a celebration. And that even opens another discussion on how we are always celebrating celebration of life. Meanwhile, the person died in a tragedy like this. Be that as it may, Mr. Speaker, the discussion has to move on to the practical things and the practical and proactive solutions that have to be looked at, such that such occurrences will be minimized. Mr. Speaker, we are all living in cages. Because of the security situation in the country, we're living in cages. We've barricaded ourselves. We even have metal doors to bedrooms now. In the earlier days, it used to be just simple timber doors. Now we have metal doors. And we have barricaded all the windows. And there are no escape routes, even in bedrooms. Your typical 2-3 windows along opposite walls will have burglar-proofing that you cannot even open. I'd plead with constructors, people who do construction and so on, house owners, that even if it means that you leave one window, being able to even have a padlock or something, there should be an escape route for somebody or anybody in a room, a typical room of habitation. The fire service needs to do a bit more public education. The pictures that we saw on social media were not pleasant at all. If you had children, you don't want to see what you saw. And I think this calls for the fire service being real. Whenever there's a fire, there's an investigation, and the report finds its way onto a shelf somewhere, the findings of the report, the remedies of the report, and the conclusion. And I think this may be a time for them to extract these things and do more public education, not only in Gomwa East, but in all the constituencies across the country. There are so many mediums now they can use, traditional and electronic media, to use to be able to do that for the benefit of the populace. Yes, we can have smoke detectors in rooms. They come at a price with batteries. We can have fire extinguishers, but ultimately the responsibility lies with the person who may be living in there, and sometimes electrical fires are caused without anybody's fault. Mr. Speaker, interestingly, the Committee on Subsidiary Legislation is actually reviewing the building regulations that were presented by the Ministry for Works and Housing late last year. And I believe even with this, it's going to, we have not reached the part where we are reviewing the fire yet, but I can assure you that our eyes are even going to be even more widely open now with such an example that has taken place. Mr. Speaker, I think I'm happy that the District Education Director has sent psychologists to the school. But in one of the videos I saw, there was another apartment behind the one that was burning, and somebody was literally crying her heart out. So the psychologist's intervention has to go beyond the school to all the basically to the neighborhood, and hopefully even beyond that, maybe the churches that they attended and so on and so forth, so that they'll have some calmness and some closure to what happened. I think that my colleague referred to Ghana Standards Authority. Then we have to look at the fire rating of materials that we are using in Ghana. In fact, to be very honest, I'm not sure the building materials that we are using, fire rating is known. And I'm speaking as a professional in the industry, and I know that we have some challenges there. Because anybody can go to a market and buy anything to install. And I think that that really needs to be looked out for. The last thing I would like to say, Mr. Speaker, is that the district assemblies, before something is built, a drawing is sent to the assemblies for review. There's enough experience in the district assemblies to know that there must be an exit. Let me just give an example. Whenever you are watching a movie in America or wherever, you look outside, somebody is trying to enter in front and somebody escapes through the back and is running down some metal steps. Those are all fire stairs, fire escapes. And for buildings that are higher than 2-story apartments and so on and so forth, which are very common now, they definitely have to have some much more defined fire escapes. And also, generally, for any kind of building, Mr. Speaker, I think that we have to look at exits properly, so that these kind of tragedies do not happen to anybody, and we can avoid this situation as much as possible. I thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the opportunity, and once again, I extend my sincere condolences to the people of Gomwa East and the people in the environs of Big Apple for this tragedy. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Yeah. Very well. After the minister has spoken, I gave her the only because I promised her. So I think we should bring the statement time to. Sorry?
Mr. Speaker, it's not a contribution. Mr. Speaker, yesterday when we were adjourning in the votes and proceedings, we were asked to report here at 10 o'clock. Mr. Speaker, we turned up here at 10 o'clock. Then we heard rumors.
Honorable member for Adaklu, you are grossly out of order. In the middle of statements, you jump in with votes and proceedings which concluded an hour ago. Let's please bring proceedings on the statement time to a close. Honorable members, that brings us to the end of statement time. Majority leadership. Yes, Honorable Abuja, what is it?
Mr. Speaker, all I'm trying to say, Mr. Speaker, all I'm trying to say is this, that we were told to come here at 10 o'clock. Indeed, we turned up here at 10 o'clock. Then we were told that sitting may start at 2 o'clock. We stayed at, it came to 2 o'clock. We were told that may be 4 o'clock, Mr. Speaker. 4 o'clock we didn't start. We started around 5 p.m. Mr. Speaker, we've done, those of us who came on time have done 9 hours by now. As we stand here, when Honorable Kujeto asked how long is that consultation going to be, the majority leader said about 1 hour. Mr. Speaker, exactly what are we doing here 9 hours after we came to work? And we don't have any entry. Mr. Speaker, you are not even giving us any direction as to, oh, we have this business to do. Mr. Speaker, because we were not informed of extended sitting, Parliament also didn't do any provision for extended sitting. Mr. Speaker, for the sake of health and safety, I humbly appeal to you, adjourn this house now so that members can go to, we are all also human beings. Mr. Speaker, there's no reason why we should be sitting here at this time. There's absolutely no reason. We are not adjourning sitting here today. So why are we here? Mr. Speaker, I humbly appeal to you, adjourn this house now so that members can adhere to health and safety. We are also human. Mr. Speaker, I thank you for the opportunity.
Honorable, I was looking at the standing orders to find upon which order you made this application. I had earlier ruled that you were grossly out of order, but you were still on your feet, so I thought you had something else to share. But it does appear that you wanted to persist in your this order. So I heard you, but I'll make no ruling. Thank you. Yes, Honorable Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, as the I appreciate the issues raised by the Honorable Abuja. There has been in some consultations and some discussions with relevant stakeholders and people whose voices matter in this matter. Mr. Speaker, we just about concluded, and I thought we could begin in earnest the consideration of the matter on the other paper addendum. But because of what my colleague is saying, I don't know whether it will not be prudent to maybe the time reading 6:45 to break for some 45 minutes in order to allow. Other than that, Mr. Speaker, I believe we can begin in earnest the consideration of the matter on the other paper addendum. I thank you.
Yes, Honorable Minority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I have a genuine difficulty in how we want to proceed further on this matter. And my difficulty is premised on the fact that when we adopted business statement for last week, we're told that e-levy will be next week, 1st February. We so adopted the report of the business committee, and we on this side kept cautioning that we don't want surprises. We don't want surprises. Let's know when we take this, and then we can debate it thoroughly. Then subsequently, we were told that it will be next week. There's been some